The writer of Hebrews speaks on going on to perfection. The way this is achieved is having the proper foundation laid. He also refers to these foundational principles as milk. Babies need milk to grow. Many people, when they so-called, come into the faith, they actually come by way of other things. And all the while, never actually receiving the things necessary for real and real growth and eventual maturity. Ever learning and never able to come to the knowledge of the truth. A simple question. Got milk? We want to talk about today belief in Elohim. Belief in Elohim. If we look at Hebrews chapter 6, first couple verses where it talks about these foundational principles that we're dealing with throughout this little short series. The second principle is belief in Elohim. Belief towards Elohim, it literally says. So belief that brings you towards Elohim. The belief that brings you to the Most High. And this, of course, comes through what? Faith in Messiah, right? John chapter 10 verse 1 says, "Verily, verily, I say unto you, he that enters not by the door into the sheepfold, but climbs up some other way, the same is a thief and a robber." Verse 9 of the same chapter says, "I am the door. By me, if any man enter in, he shall be saved, and shall go in and out and find pasture." Right? So the way in is through Messiah. Right? So again, if we're dealing with these elementary principles, the one we're dealing with specifically talking about belief in Elohim, faith in Elohim, the way it's written there is actually belief towards Elohim, right? The way we get to Elohim is Messiah. Romans 3, verse 24 through 26. "Being declared right without paying by his favor through the redemption which is in Messiah Yeshua, whom Elohim set forth as an atonement through belief in his blood to demonstrate his righteousness, because in his tolerance Elohim had passed over the sins that had taken place before, to demonstrate at the present time his righteousness, that he is righteous and declares righteous the one who has belief in Yeshua." Right? So right there it says that he is righteous and declares righteous the one who has belief in Yeshua. Belief in Yeshua. Yeshua is the door, the way to get in. It's through Yeshua. Belief in Yeshua. When we talk about belief in Elohim, we can't speak of that as if it's something separate than belief in the Almighty. If we say belief in the Almighty, belief in Yahweh, belief in Yeshua, these things are all the same. We look at John 1:1, says the word was with Elohim and the word was Elohim. So if we're talking about belief towards Elohim, the word is Elohim, Yeshua is the word. You see where we're going with this. We need to have that belief, that faith in Yeshua, because those ones, the ones who have that faith in Yeshua, those are the ones who are declared righteous, right? Romans 5:1-2. Therefore, having been declared right by belief, we have peace with Elohim through our Master Yeshua, Messiah, through whom also we have access by belief into his favor, in which we stand, and we exult in the expectation of the esteem of Elohim. Right? So this belief thing that it keeps mentioning is the key ingredient, right? That's the thing that needs to be cultivated. That's the thing that we need to cause us to grow. Faith in Messiah. That's milk, right? We need a heavy diet of that coming in, right? Well, what is this word? What is this word that we're talking about here? Well, in the Greek, that word that's translated here in this version as belief is pistis. It means persuasion, that is credence, moral conviction of religious truth or the truthfulness of Elohim, especially reliance upon Messiah for salvation. So this word faith, there's persuasion involved in it, right? You are persuaded of a thing, right? You understand a specific thing without a shadow of a doubt. You know, you've been persuaded, right? So this word here, pistis, is actually from this word pitho, which means to convince, right? It's you know, it comes from this idea of being convinced of a thing by an argument, by analogy, to pacify or conciliate. If we think about the idea of being pacified, if you feel kind of away, uneasy, not at rest, and this thing that I give you pacifies you. You now have rest. You now are calmed by this thing that I give you, right? So if we're talking about faith in Elohim, belief, faith towards Elohim, if I feel uneasy about my relationship with the Father, right? I'm not sure. There's disbelief. This thing that I receive, this thing that becomes cultivated within me, pacifies that feeling of being disconnected, right? There's assurance now because of this thing, this faith, right? Hebrews 11 verse 6 says, but without belief it is impossible to please him. Without this sense of being persuaded, it's impossible to please him. Without being able to have your uneasiness of your relationship that you have with the Father, without that uneasiness being pacified, it's impossible to please him. For he who comes to Elohim has to believe that he is, and that he is a rewarder of those who earnestly seek him. This word here, believe, is another derivative of this same word, this same concept that we looking at here. This pistis. This here belief is pisteo, which it means to think, to be true, to be persuaded, to credit, to place confidence in. A thing that's believed in. To credit, to have confidence. You have confidence in this thing, right? It's unwavering. If we look at Deuteronomy 32, verse 20, we'll find a word that is basically the Hebrew equivalent of this concept, this pisteo, this pistis, this pitho, this word that's translated in the Greek as belief or faith. If we look in Deuteronomy 32, verse 20, it says, "And he said, let me hide my face from them. Let me see what their end is, for they are a perverse generation, children in whom there is no trusting." Right? This is basically the same thing we see over in Hebrews 11, verse 6, where without faith it's impossible to please him. Right? These people who were not able to trust, he called them a perverse generation. Right? The one thing is directly connected to the other. The reason why the children of Israel were perverse was because of the fact that they weren't trusting in him. Right? The same thing. Habakkuk chapter 2, verse 4. "See, he whose being is not upright in him is puffed up, but the righteous one lives by his steadfastness." That's the same word over there we saw in Deuteronomy 23. That's translated as trusting. Well, let's look at that word there, emunah, emunah, emunah. It's a noun meaning truth, faithfulness. It's used to describe Elohim's character and his actions. If we look at Deuteronomy 32, verse 4, let's see what that reads. "He is the rock, his work is perfect, for all his ways are judgment, a Elohim of truth, and without iniquity, just and right is he." A Elohim of truth, emunah, faithfulness. Right? This word emunah means truth and faithfulness. It means firmness. It means security. It means moral fidelity. Right? All of these things are all going along the same line: steady, truth, firmness. He's the Elohim of firmness. So we can be firm because we know that he is the Elohim of firmness. Right? If we break this word down even further, emun, established, trustworthiness, faith. We break it down even more, aman, to build up, to support, to foster as a parent. Right? As a parent, when a parent's doing his job, that child shouldn't have to worry. Right? Because it knows that that parent is there. Right? And the steadfast child. When you're a child, you don't think about food and bills and heat and clothes. You don't think about those things. You trust in your parent. Aman. Aman. If we look at that in the ancient, it's the ox's head. It's the mem, which is the water, and the noon, which is a sprouted seed. The aleph, the ox's head, gives us the idea of strength. Strength, right? The mem, which is water, which is mighty. That gives us the idea of mighty. mighty, right? And the noon, which is a sprouted seed, a seed planted, continues, right? So with the sprouted seed, the noon, we have the idea of continuance. So we have a strong and mighty continuity, right? That's what the base of that word is, a strong and mighty continuity, right? So faith is about a strong and mighty continuance, being strong and mighty continually. We know that's what the Most High is for us. And we likewise be that in terms of our relationship with him, right? It's where it's unwavering, right? Not because of us, but because of our faith in him, right? When we think about the 12 spies, Joshua and Caleb, they saw the same things that the other 10 spies saw. But what was the difference? They had faith. They had firmness, not in their own abilities, but in the abilities of the Almighty, right? That was a perfect picture of faith. Faith towards Elohim. Because when we have that faith towards Elohim, when we understand who Elohim is and what he is able to do for us, right? It allows us to be able to move in firmness, in steadfastness, right? Now, thinking about this in the terms of being this milk concept, this is the thing that needs to be established and fortified in those people that are new, those people that are babes, right? Not all of these other things, right? All of those other things can come along down the line. But the milk, the thing that grows you up, that brings about maturity in your spiritual life, is steadfastness in Elohim. And if you've never established this faith, if you've never established this belief towards Elohim, how can you stand? How can you stand? That faith in who the Father is must be established. That faith in his character and what his character, what that means for you. That faith in who Messiah is must be established. That faith in what he's done for you. If that thing's never been established, if that thing's never been cultivated in you, how can you stand? I don't believe you can. I don't believe you can stand, right? So this is the problem that the writer of Hebrews had when he was speaking to those people. I got to go back again and deal with these milk issues because these things were never established in you, right? So we have to be sure that these things are established in us, and we have to be sure that when we deal with people that are just coming into the truth, that this is the truth that they're coming into. Belief in Elohim, knowing who he is, that being fortified in your soul, right? If you don't know nothing else, you know who the Almighty is, right? And you know what he has made available for you, and you trust and believe in that, and you're firm in that, right? You're steadfast in that, unshakable, unmovable in who he is and what he has done for you. Then you can worry about these other things down the road, right? So when we're talking about milk, this is what we mean. And this is where we're at.